Welcome to the Strange and Interesting Podcast, a show about folklore, the paranormal, urban legends, and pretty much anything else I happen to find strange or interesting. I am your host, Al. Today we're going to be talking about the Backrooms, and if you've listened to my show before, this is something I have discussed here and there. I just found this a very fascinating subject. It's a little bit of modern folklore in my personal opinion, and it was all started by a simple photograph. This photograph showed what appeared to be an abandoned office building of some kind. First appeared on April 12, 2018 on 4chan in a thread about cursed images. On May 12, 2019, the photo resurfaced on another thread about places that felt off. And 2 days later, an anonymous user posted the now famous block of text about how if you're not careful and no clip out of reality in wrong areas, you'll end up in the Backrooms, where it's nothing but the stink of moist carpet, the madness of mono yellow, the endless background noise of fluorescent lights at maximum hum buzz, and approximately 600 million square miles of randomly segmented empty rooms to be trapped in. God save you if you hear something wandering around nearby, because it sure as hell has heard you. Now, if you're involved in the Backrooms community, you probably are aware that earlier this year, I think like three months or so ago, the location of the Backrooms photograph was actually found. And this caused a lot of excitement because there were a lot of people in this particular community who were wondering if this was like a Photoshop or a digital manipulation. And a lot of people assumed that, well, whatever place this was probably an office building of some kind and has probably been abandoned or demolished long ago. So a lot of us were really surprised to find out this place still exists. And I am at that location right now, and with me is the owner of Hobby Town in Oshkosh, Bob. So how are you doing today, Bob?
I'm pretty good.
Place in the store where we're doing the interview, was this the actual place where the photo was taken?
Absolutely. We're actually in the corner of the room that picture was taken on. There's a lot of confusion as to how the room is laid out, but when I posted the rest of the pictures, I think it explained it enough for them that they're doing blueprints and stuff now. But yeah, this is the room.
That is cool that there are people making blueprints of what it would have looked like, because I know there's a lot of people who are into like the games Minecraft and Roblox who've also made it, and we'll probably talk a little bit about this later on. But first, let's learn a little bit more about you. So first, you have been in the hobby store business for, what is it, about 30 years?
A little over 30 years. 1991 is when I first started to hang out at a store that I was back in school at the time, and started hanging out at a store, and within 2 or 3 years I ended up buying it, and that was my first step into the retail side of anything.
So when you were growing up, what were some of your hobbies, and did your love of these particular hobbies, was that what inspired you to go on to open your own hobby store?
Well, I bought the hobby store. It was actually an existing store. But no, the reason I was hanging out there is I loved hobbies my entire life. I did slot cars, trains, model rockets, plastic models, even as far as going into stores and entering contests and stuff like that. I was really into it my whole younger life. And then when I got older, my passion went to motorcycles and racing and working on motorcycles. And eventually I wanted to get out of that, and that's why I ended up back in school, and that's what drew me back into the hobby business.
So since you've been in the hobby business for 3 decades now, what are some of the challenges of running a physical hobby store now in the 2020s versus back when you first started?
When I first started, a hobby shop was more of I venture to say it was an established business that was in every little town everywhere. Big towns had 20 of them. It was an educational place. People went there to buy models and trains and stuff. They became architects and engineers. Model rockets became, people that work for NASA. That all was the inviting part of a hobby shop. Since then, a lot of what we've, became known for is selling toys, I'd say is more of the correct designation now. My store is a little more old school. We still sell a lot of models. We sell a lot of puzzles, a lot of rockets and science kits, everything possible educational. The hobby industry is kind of dying. It's becoming I venture to say it's going down the same way as all small businesses. They're extremely hard to staff. A hobby shop, worse than all of them, requires people to have a certain amount of knowledge of what we sell to be behind the counter. And that's becoming harder and harder to fill those needs. Obviously we're up against the internet, so we're forced to sell at the internet prices with the internet, holding us at bay as far as what our retail prices are. We can't support the increasing costs of labor and the increasing costs of doing business, basically. So,
yeah, and you make a good point, and unfortunately a sad one as well, about how the internet and shopping from like Amazon and other online retailers has caused a blow to brick and mortar stores like yours here. And I like how you made the point that it's a place to learn, because if you gave me a model car kit and told me to assemble it and put all the gears and stuff, I'd probably hit my head against the wall a little bit. So it's nice that people who are into the radio-controlled vehicles do have a resource like your store here where they can go and they can ask someone, okay, I tried doing this and the car will go reverse, but it won't go forward. Well, okay, here's how you can fix it, or you can take a look. And judging by the layout of your store, I can definitely tell you've got a real love for radio-controlled cars, because you have, 3 racetracks in here?
There's one track that's used as 2 different tracks, an oval and road course, and then there's a dirt oval in the basement. But then there's a huge play area for what's called rock crawling, which is just open to the public all the time to bring in their rock crawlers to crawl on it. It's not something we do like speed competitions with, but we do have a local club that comes in and uses it for a competition in the winter. Last winter they did 1 competition a month. It gives people a place to go with their kids and stuff like that and use their toys.
Yeah, and that's awesome, because I believe you used to have like 2 locations up in Appleton, correct?
Yep, I've actually was in Appleton and 3 locations in Appleton and 1 that was real near at Appleton and Neenah.
Because I remember going to one of your stores that you had up there, and where they did have the racetrack set up in the back, because when my son was younger, one of his friends introduced him to RC cars, and he wanted to see if it's something he'd be interested in getting into. So we went there and rented one of the cars and, played around for a little bit. But I think it's awesome that you do that so people can get a feel for it. And the fact that your staff is knowledgeable about those kind of things helps. And that's definitely something where I think is physical store has over watching a YouTube channel.
Customer service.
And if someone's having a problem with their vehicle, they can bring it in and, I assume you guys would look at it and help them try to figure out.
Before we offer anything, we offer them a place that they can come with their tools. And we tell them, it's like, bring your tools, bring everything involving the car, and we'll let you sit right here at a bench and put it together and take it apart. And if there's any questions all along the way, we'll help you. No charge. It's something that we want people to learn about the vehicles. And of course, if they learn about it and they can fix it themselves, they fall in love with a hobby and they end up being around forever.
I think it's great that you're willing to do that at no charge, because I'm sure there's places where they're like, yeah, bring it in and, we'll charge a $10, $15 diagnostic fee and charge so much per hour to fix it. And so it's great that you're willing to help your customers like that. And I think in some businesses nowadays, customer service, it's the most important thing, but it's not always a thing that some companies focus on. And of course, being a small business, that is your primary priority, because that's what's going to keep people coming back.
Absolutely.
So how did you get into radio-controlled cars?
I was a mechanic in the 80s, and somebody told me about the radio-controlled racing, and I venture to say community, and went and watched a race and found out that you got to put them back together. Back then you couldn't buy one that came pre-assembled, but these things are little mechanical marvels. It's basically as high-tech as any car you can buy off the street, And a lot of the technology is shared between the two of them. If one isn't doing it, the other one will copy the other guy. So the stuff just fascinated me. I could build a whole car on my kitchen table and go out and race it that weekend. I thought it was very neat. And so yeah, that was probably what got me drawn back into it first. So needless to say, it's the what's kept me in the business, and I would have laughed at anybody that they said I was going to still be doing this after 30 plus years. The technology changes in our industry changes so fast and so often that the interest just grows constantly. So it's a never-ending thing.
You mentioned earlier that you were also into things like the slot car racing and model trains. Did your experience as a mechanic also get you interested in those, or were those like just toys you played with when you were a kid? Or?
It was more of a childhood thing. Of course, when you do that, like you build a train layout and you do slot car racing, that draws you into the real world thing, and then you start looking it up in books and on TV and now online. I lived out in the country. We could ride our bikes and go and watch trains go by, and oddly enough, that was entertaining when we were kids. We'd maybe bring a couple of coins along and put them on the rails, whatever we weren't supposed to do. But the reality is those are memories that you'll have forever. And it all started with probably a Christmas present, and then a trip to the store, and models was probably my first and foremost love when I was a kid, because we lived in the country, and if I didn't have somebody to play with, I could put together models and stuff like that.
I personally never really got into the railroad trains, but I do think it's really impressive the setups that some people have for their train set. One of my friends from back when he was a kid, his dad was really into model trains, and he had the special table he built up where, you had the center where you could sit in and watch the train go around, and he'd put all the, the model buildings and the trees. And I always thought it was really neat. And I think the Museum of Science and Industry down in Chicago also has like a display of one of this just huge, massive set. And it's like, even if you're not into model trains, it's still very impressive.
Absolutely. The train building community goes deep, and the largest and most impressive train layout is in Germany. It's obviously a government funded thing, but even there's celebrities and stuff like that. Rod Stewart's favorite pastime is model trains, and he has an insane layout. And it's easy to look that stuff up online, and it's shown everywhere.
So let's go to the history of the building. And I know you've told me some of this before, and which I appreciate. It is interesting because I think when a lot of people walk into a building, especially ones that are older like the one we're in now, people don't always really think about the history of the building and what it was before it became whatever type of store it is. And I think it's kind of sad in a way, because some of these older buildings, like this one, I'm sure have been through a lot of changes. So can you give us a brief history of the building that we're in?
Well, it goes back over 100 years, so I don't know all the details, but the nuts and bolts of it is the original building, which is 2/3 the size of what we're in right now, built to be what they called a dry goods store back in the 10s or 20s. And it was, in essence, a department store back then. Then over the years, it got added on to, there's been a couple additions, and then at some point, I believe the guy that owned it and made it into the furniture store that it was before I bought it, added on other buildings and opened up entrances and had nearly the entire block as the furniture store. And it expanded. It was much more than a furniture store. They did flooring and everything. Service and installations was all done through this. It was quite a big company. I knew the original owner, actually worked for him, and knew his son when I bought the building from him. But yeah, you're right. Most of these buildings do. They just sit vacant, empty. They're not very purposeful. It would have probably cost too much to renovate this building into doing anything else. But what we did with it, a lot of the work was done by ourselves, and erasers and my, friends all got together and helped me with this. We spent about a year on it, and our goal was just to open everything up and make it a big playhouse with a hobby shop. So, needless to say, it's been used for the last 20 years. Before that, it had some, like you say, the stories are true. It had rotting carpet, and the roof was practically caving in 20 years ago. But yeah, it's been a long ride. But yeah, we for 20 years, and to be surviving in today's economy is awesome. And therefore leads us to the next question probably is what we're going to do with the building in the future.
I know right now there is a GoFundMe campaign that you have where, because we were talking before and you mentioned that the roof needs a bit of repairs, as buildings that, are over 100 years old tend to need some fixing up every now and then, especially in Wisconsin, where we can go from like the severe winters to the extremely hot summers. And then, that back and forth can certainly wear down a building's structural integrity. So tell us about the GoFundMe campaign that you're currently doing.
Okay, the GoFundMe campaign is literally to help fix the building. I certainly hope I can keep my hobby shop around longer, but the reality is the main concern, and probably the biggest thing that would draw me back from, finding somebody even take the store over when I want to retire, is the roof. Commercial roofs last literally at best 20 years. I put a new roof on the place 20 years ago. Of course, it was much less expensive back then, and we've been doing Band-Aid patches and ever since. The rest of the building is solid as a rock. We've replaced everything right down to the boilers and the air conditioning and the lights. The electrical was completely rebuilt back in 2004 when we moved in here. But the roof needs to be fixed again, and I think the building's worth the preservation. It's not good for a lot of other purposes. I'm not doing this to make any money. I'm doing it to, basically help the community out by keeping an iconic building like this around that's used, and still has a purpose.
And I think the community of Oshkosh is certainly lucky to have a store like yours, especially the people who are interested in radio-controlled car racing, because you have a beautiful facility here, and the fact that you've got the different tracks, like you're mentioning the dirt track, the carpet one, and then there's the one where it's a bit rougher. So, they're definitely lucky to have you here. And I will post a link in the show description so that anyone who is interested in checking it out and wants to donate will be able to go ahead and make a donation. And since it's now been revealed that this location was the inspiration for something that became this worldwide internet phenomenon, hopefully that has brought up a lot of interest, and the building will be seen as, historically significant for that reason. Now, did you actually take the picture of the Backrooms, or were you just there when it was taken and the building was being looked at for renovation?
The picture was taken by the person that I would consider probably my best friend. He worked for me back then and was helping me manage one of the stores. He's still around, and he managed to find the original camera that the pictures were taken on and passed that on to me. We took the pictures a year before I bought it. The building was sitting vacant, was in need of major repairs, and we made a lot of considerations as to whether or not we wanted to do what I was doing, which was, I venture to say at the time, it sounded kind of crazy. Hobby shops are typically a 3,000 square foot building. This store has over 20,000 square feet, about 24,000 if you consider the half level, but a lot of space, and we made it work, I guess is the thing, and it would be awesome to see it stick around.
It's interesting to talk about how it used to be the department store for the furniture, and the area up here they would set up like a bedroom set or an office set. So if someone wanted to see what a particular layout might look like, they could come and get some ideas, or they could see the physical product so they could get an idea of how much space they would need at home. And, of course, the furniture department of department stores will do that nowadays. And it is kind of surrealistic if you think about it. You're walking through these large rooms where they're just all these bedroom sets and stuff set up. And it's like, well, no one's really using it as a bedroom, but it looks like something that you could definitely use as a bedroom. So I always thought it was surrealistic in a way. So I think it is appropriate then that some place that was used for that purpose became the inspiration for the Backrooms. So how did you find out about your photo being used as the inspiration for this backroom setting?
It was sometime in May. We started getting phone calls and then people started messaging us through our Facebook pages, and basically they were questioning whether or not we knew it was the true place that all of these pictures were taken. And obviously I recognized them right away. It was a lot of work to remove all of the fake walls. The building had a lot of partitions put in it by the furniture store, including they back in the, I would say 70s or 80s or somewhere along the line, they started putting in false ceilings and suspended ceilings. They were taking these big old beautiful airy buildings and dropping the ceilings to 10 feet, and it just was, to me it was gross. But the reality is to me is and how I looked at it was, and after we started the project, it was not probably the smartest decision. We pulled about 6 20-yard dumpsters full of bits and pieces out of the store just to get started on what we had to do. So it's a big undertaking.
I bet you wish you could have opened up one of the windows there and just chucked stuff onto a dumpster down in the street.
Well, those windows weren't there at the time. Those windows, there was a wall built over those windows and on the inside, and then what covered almost the entire block. So it covered the faces of 3 or 4 businesses. Was just a huge metal sign that said Roner's Furniture on it.
Yeah, I remember you showed me one place downstairs where you can still see it's an interior wall, but you can still see the window where it looked out in the street, and there's still the drapes there that who knows how long those have been there. But yeah, I thought it was fascinating when we were talking about that, because as I said, how many of us really think about what happened in a building? I'm sure a lot of people just kind of, well, at least before it was revealed that this was where the Backrooms photo was taken, people just came in, got what they needed, looked around, and then, left and continued their day. And now it's like people can be like, hey, this is where the Backrooms photo was taken. So how has this news impacted your business?
We've seen quite a few visitors. We've had some of the racers are giving it more attention because they realize that it's a situation that some of these guys are coming from way far away that come here. So we draw from a couple hours away by car. They're noticing it, and I would say with the attention that's been given to it, we're definitely looking at making the repairs. We're looking for some different quotes right now. But again, like I said, if the interest is there, we'll do our best to keep it around.
After you heard about your store being the location of the Backrooms, did you go up and read up on what this Backrooms thing was? Did you know what it was before, or did you not really know about it until you found out that the picture was being used for the Backrooms setting?
Probably for the first month, we really didn't have much of a clue, other than that our pictures were used in some sort of a backroom story, and really didn't look into it for a matter of a few weeks. Internet community has been great and pointed out to me that there's the number of videos that have been written, and yourself even came forth with the fact that you've written books on the game, or a game book yourself. But yeah, no, the community's been great, and they've since shared all the videos, and it's fun stuff to watch the videos previous to finding the locations, and then during the look for the locations. And now they're doing videos on, hey, we found the location, and a lot of those community members have helped us with the GoFundMe. We've had over 300 donations. We're really just looking for small donations to help the cause. A couple bucks is all everybody has to kick in, and I think we'll be fine. But no, it's been kind of fun. So
I shared the link to the page for my podcast and my game company, as well as a Backrooms Facebook group I'm on, because I figured, hey, if we finally know where it is, and here's a chance to help a small business owner, as well as preserve something that's very, at least in my opinion, is very important to the lore of the Backrooms and what helped launch this, crazy little setting idea that we've all become, so wrapped up in. The Backrooms has gone on then to become this worldwide phenomenon. It's inspired writers, artists, musicians, YouTube content creators, game designers, and all sorts of people. So what is your opinion on this simple little picture that was taken in your store, going on to inspire this worldwide community of people who are into creepy looking spaces?
I guess the how we look at it, and keep in mind we're a 7-day-a-week store, that we invite people to come into the store and play here every day anyhow. We do sell some games, and we do sell a lot of things that cross over to that whole community. So we welcome them in, we're that kind of a store. It's open 7 days a week. We hardly ever close, it's one of those things.
Yeah, you should put a sign up somewhere, not responsible for anyone accidentally no-clipping through the floor.
Absolutely. We still have some creepy rooms in the basements and stuff like that. Again, it's a 100-plus-year-old building that we made as much use out of it as we could. So
yeah, I think you've definitely done a good job getting use out of it. And as I said, just looking at the what it is now, and then looking at some of the photos that you've shared from before the store was being renovated, how you turned this, old, unused, neglected space into a very functional area where people can come and gather and socialize and, have a lot of fun, which in a way it's interesting because that's kind of the opposite of what the original idea for the Backrooms was, because the original idea was about isolation and, fear and uncertainty. But now you can come to the Backrooms location and hang out with people and have fun.
Yeah. Yeah, we've gotten a lot of people come in to do some selfies and stuff. A couple interviews, even a TV station. It's become quite a phenomenon for something that you can still share. One of the things is amongst the community, they're trying to source some of the old wallpaper and stuff that was on the walls, but they'd like to see a spot set up in the store where they can come in and take photo shoots to recreate some of the backroom images, with them in it, I guess, is the idea. Or they're talking about doing some event stuff here, like a Halloween party or something.
Oh yeah, and I'd love to run some sessions of my Caught in the Backrooms game here, because we will have come full circle.
Absolutely. And we'd welcome stuff like that.
Well, I think this is a good place to end the interview. I'd like to thank you for taking some time out of your day to talk with me about your hobbies and a little bit of the history of the location here and the Backrooms. And certainly also like to thank the listeners for tuning in. And as I said, I will have a link in there for the GoFundMe campaign. So if any of you can spare a few dollars, please take a look and please donate to help this piece of internet history that turned out to be an actual physical location that you can still visit today. So until next time, everyone, stay strange and stay interesting. You have been listening to a presentation of Point of Insanity Game Studio. Visit us on the web at poigamestudio.com. Follow us on Twitter at poigamestudio. Look us up on Facebook and email us at poigamestudio@gmail.com.